Hello and welcome to our REVIT 2015 HVAC training series. And just before we get started, as the videos develop, I like to add in a couple of pointers here just before we get started, maybe some discrepancies that you might see as we move along through all of these files and stuff. First of all, the naming of the files. Throughout the training, we'll be opening up different lessons. There is 29 lessons. Lesson 1 uses just basically the completed model here. Lesson 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way down. I need to add some zeros in here as well. So you'll see each lesson has its own REVIT file. You can just ignore this one. And then this is kind of the completed version. In the beginning, we were calling this REVIT MEP 2015, and we're going to package this just as the HVAC series by itself. So you'll notice that the file names that you should be using are HVAC, not MEP. The other thing is just a little note on the color coding. When you open that completed model that comes with this series, which is right here, okay, and if you go to the default 3D view, you'll notice that we use view filters. We spend a fair bit of time with view filters to color code our HVAC systems. In this completed version, this is kind of the startup view, but if you go to the default kind of 3D view other than the start view, you'll notice that, we have the return exhaust and supply air color coded. If you're ever not sure, you just pick on a piece of ductwork or equipment and it's going to tell you the classification. You know that blue is the return air, red is the supply, and the green is over here is the exhaust air. Okay, so throughout the videos, we struggle, I think, a little bit to coordinate the color coding in this completed model versus the lessons we work in. So if you get a little bit confused, I apologize off the bat, but this is the file that you should be using. Return air should be blue, supply should be red, and exhaust should be green, and that's done with a VV on the keyboard and filters, and then color coding our systems down inside of here. So that's just a quick little kind of heads up on a few differences that you might notice as you work through the lessons, the file naming and the color coding of the systems. We have done several videos including MEP stuff, but this is a series that's a bit more focused just on MEP and a little bit more detail in actually getting in and doing some project work. It is a prerequisite that you've seen the getting started and the new features of REVIT 2015. I wouldn't recommend doing this as your first lesson of ever using REVIT, but you can as long as you just follow along and pay attention. So we have a couple of files at least to start with here, and we're going to open up a project that's kind of like a completed version of what we're kind of working towards. And then we have one where we have a bunch of missing information and we'll just kind of remodel that stuff. So we'll start by just having a quick look. So with your videos, your CADclips, you should have this startup file included. So I'm just going to pick on there, or you can browse and go open, but basically it's the one called CADclips REVIT MEP 2015 Complete 01. So we'll just click on there. We'll open up that file. It opens up to kind of a start view by default, and it also has it set as the thumbnail view. So just to be consistent so that when you see, what I see when we start it up, this is kind of a completed version of a building. And inside of there, we've got some filtering and stuff. Now, I'm trying to spin this right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to unlock it. I'm just going to go to my default 3D view instead of that start 3D view. And it just positioned a bit differently. Okay. So I'm going to use the shift middle mouse button or the wheel button, zoom in and swivel around. And we're just going to kind of have a look at some of the stuff in here. And the way this one is set up, and we'll go through this, is it's using view filters. So each view can have different settings, color coding and all kinds of stuff. So this happens to be a 3D view. And in this view, we can turn on some color coding saying, supply air is blue and return air is green and exhaust air is red, etc. So we're going to show you how to do that. Now in this view, some of the filters are set, but not all of them. If you actually go to this start view here, which is under the question marks, if you go back to that start view here, you'll see that this view has been tailored a little bit more with color coding. So you can see that the sanitary piping is brown, the return air is green, the exhaust air, I believe, is pink, and they need to be connected. So in here they're not even completed, but we'll do that. So these guys should be pink, and then equipment is the bright green, lighting is yellow. If you zoom in far enough, you'll see that, we probably want to color code our cable tray. Electrical is set to be this kind of purpley color. Okay, if we go and look at our electrical room over here. So I'm just kind of demonstrating, some of the stuff that we're going to be modeling. Not all of this, but a great deal of this in this one wing, not the entire building. We have a copy of this particular project. Well, let me unlock this view here. Shift middle mouse button. You can see over here there's some electrical equipment inside of there. Okay, kind of a purpley color. Again, lighting is yellow, and the cable tray is about the only thing that actually didn't get color coded. So we'll do that in our version. So we have a copy of this particular project file, and basically we've erased all of the mechanical aspect of this particular wing over here. And we'll go in and add that all that stuff in, the piping, the lighting, the ductwork, the different supply systems. Okay, we'll also have a look at our project browser. Okay, if we hit F9, it'll call up our project browser. So I'm just going to go over to here and do it from here. Or sorry, system browser. And our system browser, of course, is going to show us all of our mechanical systems. We've talked about that a little bit inside of here. And if you pick on here, it'll start to highlight those systems in our project. So F9 on the keyboard, or you can go up here to View and go down into there and say System Browser and turn it off again. And I'm not sure why these lights are floating out in there. I could probably delete these guys right away. I don't see why they're out there, or why that ductwork would be out there floating. So we're going to kind of reference this, and you have this version of the model, so you can, as we're working through this, you can kind of zoom in and say, oh, okay, I understand, what we're trying to do. And then we go back in the other one and we can model it, and we can click on here and get an idea of some of the elevations and stuff like that that is valuable for us. The height, to speed things up a little bit as far as, the height of ductwork. And that's really one of the biggest challenges, is when you're drawing this mechanical stuff. I'm going to grab that and do a shift middle mouse button, is really where they are so they don't bump into each other. What the vertical elevation or invert is of that piece of ductwork, or that piece of equipment, or that diffuser, or that light, or whatever it is you happen to be modeling. It's very important when you pick on this diffuser here, this air terminal, and it tells you that if it's 2400 off of level 2, that there's enough room to kind of make that elbow bend. Okay, that's where you'll run into problems, where there's not enough room to create that elbow, or to add in the fitting, or adding the reducer. So you have to give yourself some room as far as when you're modeling stuff. You always have to be aware of your level, as usual with everything in Revit, and be aware of your elevations and your duct sizes. We're going to see that as we go through. So this is our completed version, and we'll come back in our next lesson and we'll open up clone version of this project with all this stuff erased along this wing over here. And I think we'll probably start by adding in our supply air system. So we're going to turn on a bunch of view filters to start with, okay, before we start to model in our new project. So we'll come back and color code our plans and our 3D views to show all of the different systems so we can visually see it, and then we'll start to model our stuff in the following lesson.